Okay, well, once again, welcome to this week's edition of Leafwire's Industry Trailblazers, where we speak with and learn from some of the industry's true pioneers. And this is a true pioneer we're welcoming this week. It's Marty Raulins. I'm going to just tell a little story about you, Marty, so bear with me here. So I think this is really important the audience understand that in August 1975, Marty flew a four-engine Douglas C-54 Skymaster into a clandestine 1,000-foot airstrip in Polk County, Georgia. The abandoned DC-4 and its cargo drew 500,000 curious onlookers over 7 months before federal agents seized it. After the auction, the plane inspired a B-movie in hot pursuit, the Polk County Pot Plane, and cult favorite footage of its perilous takeoff still circulates today. Marty spent 15 years smuggling, then served 9 years in federal prison, and has authored his own memoir, Flying High, a Cannabis Caper. Looks like you smuggled 7,000 pounds of cannabis on that flight. And Marty, I always like the fact, too, that you were contacted by Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda. And, it's just an incredible look into what the cannabis situation was like just a short time ago. Thank you so much for being on with us today, Marty.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I know you probably get a lot of the questions about this all the time, but maybe you could give us, a short version of the Polk County Caper and how you got into that and how that all went down.
Well, I started smoking pot in 1968 when I was in college, my first year of college. And I realized it wasn't too much to marijuana as opposed to, down here in the South, we used to Jack Daniels and a Budweiser in the other hand. So you got to go a long ways to beat that high. So, but anyway, I started smoking pot, like I said, in 68, and then I went to Marine Corps Reserves to keep from going to Vietnam. And then in the 1970s, when I turned full-blown hippie and smoking pot and everything, I started selling pot. You have to become a dealer because it's so expensive. You got a plant that's worth $1, because of prohibition it's worth 10. So you virtually have to become a dealer to be able to afford it. So one thing led to another, and I started taking 200 or 300 pounds of pot up to New York City and Manhattan, and was selling it for $1,000 a pound up there, and buying it here for $250 or $300 a pound. But it had to be the very best, But then, so that's where I started making a really good money in the pot business, and that was in about 71, I guess, and the problem was that it was hard to find the really good pot to be able to take to New York to make that kind of money. So all the money was always in the smuggling part of it, going down and getting it. And basically, I was just going down and getting stash for myself, because it's always for me first. But and so I ended up in, I guess 73 or 74, first of 74, I moved down to Florida because I wanted to buy a boat, and I had a couple of my buddies who were it was my money, and they were going to back me, Derry Ferris and Bobby Brandis and Randy Casey, who always worked with me and stuff. They're all high school buddies of mine and stuff. So I ended up moving down to Boca Raton I was going to buy a boat and, go to Columbia. And when I went down to Florida, a buddy of mine down there introduced me to this guy that was, his name is Mike Kalmbach, and he was an All-American swimmer at the University of Michigan. And so he was wanting to do the same thing I was doing. He wanted to find a boat, but Mike was already a swimmer. I mean, he was in the water all the time, and him and his wife had a little 36-foot sailboat. But anyway, he was wanting to get into smuggling, and I was wanting to get into smuggling too. And so he and I hit it off real well. Our personalities were a lot alike. He liked to smoke pot, and I did too. And so he was swimming with Diana Nyad, who was swimming like from Bahamas to Fort Lauderdale and stuff, and him and his buddies.
Distant swimmer.
Yeah, and Mike and some of his swimming buddies that were all lifeguards down there for. And this after they graduated from college, and so Mike was going on surfboards next to Diana Nyad, those long distance swims and things like that and stuff like that. So anyway, so me and him hit it off, and there happened to be another guy down there hanging around the boatyards at the time, and his name was California Mike, and he is a California Mike. I'm 76. He was about a year or so older than me, but California Mike was just a seasoned sailor. At 26 years old, he had already sailed around the Cape twice from California around the tip of South America and back up. But basically what he was doing is he was taking pot from Colombia to the Bahamas and then calling people up and they would come in to get it from the Bahamas and things. So, but anyway, so me and Mike were both by the boat, and then we ended up working out a deal with California Mike to where we would use California Mike's, there's about a 50-foot Norwegian fishing trawler. This is not a pleasure sailboat whatsoever. I mean, there's nothing on this thing except for a radio to be able to get a Greenwich Mean Time, to be able to get where we were at on the ocean and things like that. But anyway, this sailboat's got about 5 feet headroom. I mean, there's no frills to this thing at all. So anyway, so we work out a deal. So me and Mike and California Mike and two other guys are going to go. And I mean, California Mike's going to get off in the Bahamas, and we're going to take the boat on down to Colombia. So we dropped California Mike off at the Bahamas, but before this, I mean, when we were getting ready to go, everybody's waiting for the end of hurricane season, so they can head out. All the sailboat people. So so we were ready to go. I mean, and we had about 55-gallon drums of fuel on there. I mean, this looked like a workboat. I mean, it looked like it was getting ready to go on a long trip. So, but and a northerner was blowing, and when we left Fort Lauderdale that day, we left Pier 66, and it's probably a quarter of a mile down to the inlet until you go out. And by the time we hit the inlet, before we ever hit the beach, we were all sick as dogs. I mean, to tell you, we were sick as dogs, except for California Mike. He was the only one that could handle the seas, because it was so rough. So anyway, we dropped California Mike all over in Bimini, and so we head on down. Well, when we were going down, you can either go between Mexico and Cuba, or Cuba and Haiti, or the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, those passages down there. So when we got down to get ready to go through the passes between Haiti and Cuba, before this, sailboats were just going down without any problem. But this time, when we got down right before that passageway between Haiti and Cuba, we noticed a smokestack off on the horizon, and within about 10 minutes, there was a big, huge, 350-foot long Coast Guard cutter taking pictures. They must have 500 cameras on the side of that daggone boat taking pictures. So I was going back. So that wasn't a good sign. And so what we were going to do is we got down to Colombia. We were going to meet Mike down there, California Mike down there. So when we told him what had happened about the Coast Guard cutter, well, he had made numerous trips before, and that had never happened before. So we figured we're not going to take that boat back. So we ended up, California Mike ends up buying a D-18. So we're going to fly it from from the Caymans, the Grand Caymans, a little bit north of Jamaica, and we're going to fly it back there. Well, that plane crashes at Stella Maris over the Bahamas going down there. So anyway, California Mike ends up getting these other buddies of his had a catamaran to go around, and they picked it up and hugged the coast of Mexico and brought it up over to Port Everglades City. And so we ended up getting that load back. We had about 3,000 pounds, I guess, on the boat. And me and Mike said, there's got to be a better way of life. Being on the boat 45 days, and there's salt everywhere. Now, Mike's just loving this because, I mean, he's he just loves the water. And so, like I said, I'm hating it. Because like I said, there's salt everywhere. So we decided to buy a big airplane, and we happened to meet another guy in the boatyards down there whose name was Bob Eby, and he was a draftsman, but he was also a pilot. But he's one of these type guys that if it's got 3 moving parts, he can fix it and make it fly. And then it's so when we got back off of the boat trip, and so we decided to go over and approach Bob and see if he wants to. Told him we wanted to fly, buy a big airplane and stuff like that. He said, well, Bob said he could go out to Tucson to the graveyards out there and put us a plane together a lot cheaper than we could buy one. So anyway, so me and Mike give Bob a bunch of money, about 30 grand, I think, to go out there. And so I head down to Columbia to set up the deal. And when I get with part of our pay of mine and Mike's pay was to meet the contact down in Columbia that Mike already had. So I've got the address of me, and I get this Puerto Rican girl as an interpreter for me that I knew in New York. She went down with me, and another one of Mike's buddies went down, and we had an address for the contact down there. Of course, it's no good. So we're riding around Barranquilla for about a week. You go to Franco. Anybody know a guy named Franco? And finally we find him, and then he takes us to Alberto, who's the main contact down there. And Alberto had he had a big cattle ranch on the beach down there, and also a resort down there, and that's where I'd always stay and stuff like that. So we so when I go back down there, and they take me to Alberto, I told them what had happened with the boats, and the Coast Guard, so we're going to go to big airplanes. And so he took me and the interpreter to the desert of Colombia. If you're heading towards South America and Colombia, there's a big mountain right on the coast. It only sits 26 miles from the coast, and it goes up about 19,000 feet. And on the eastern side of that is all desert, and there are Indians, just native Indians. And so that's where we went to. Alberto took me out to because that's where we're going to build the airstrip down there, because the government doesn't go out there to the desert where the Indians are out there. So we so when the Indians, they don't speak Spanish, they speak just their own native language. So for me to speak to the Indian chief, I spoke English, my interpreter spoke English and Spanish, another guy spoke Spanish and Indian, and then the Indian chief spoke nothing but Indian. So it was like 4 people in between me talking to this guy. And so then, like I said, it's all desert out there, so it's pretty easy to build an airstrip out there. And this is the first airstrip that anybody had built out on the desert for marijuana. There's all boats that before that and stuff like that. So we ended up taking on the first trip down there, we put I think it was 6,000 pounds on that one, but we also took them all kinds of gifts down there, bras, panties, cooking utensils. Bob had a dune buggy he was using out in Tucson to put the plane together. So we ended up putting a dune buggy on the plane and flying it down there. And the Indians had never seen a plane like this. There must have been, when we landed down there, must have been 500, 600, 700 Indians. And like the only planes they had ever seen or whatever is flown overhead. They've never seen a plane on the ground. And when on the first one, we were gonna land up in northern Florida, and something happened, and we had trouble with the plane. And ended up having to go to Puerto Rico. But and then when we decided just to land right there, Boca Raton, where we'd been. Kept the plane moving forward over Tucson and stuff. So, and that was pretty risky, because when we were unloading, the security guards came over and they kind of was looking to see the plane and stuff like that. But anyway, so we figured out that it was better to build our own airstrip, and so that's how we ended up building the one in Polk County, because we figured that we could land and get gone before anybody could ever find us. In other words, we got a tailplane coming back. If you landed at an airport, it'd be pretty easy for the law enforcement to figure out where you landed. If you landed somewhere out on your own, you should be able to get away with it pretty, without them coming in. Ended up what happened in Polk County, I had a truck, and my partner had a truck. Mike had a truck, and cause California Mike he's gone to. Last time anybody saw him, he was sailing to New Zealand and going to start an organic farm or something. So tell him how much money he had. But anyway. So what happened that night is my truck, when we landed, my truck came on back into Atlanta, and Mike's truck was gonna hide his pod out in the woods, and somebody was gonna come get it, some buyers, a couple of days later. And so when I left, Mike was following me in his truck, and so I passed a cop car in the woods, and Mike was behind me in a U-Haul truck, and they were gonna, like I said, they were gonna offload it there. Well, I ended up passing a cop on this dirt road, and then a little while later, just a few minutes later, this U-Haul comes out of it, and so this cop thought it was a moonshine operation. So he radioed ahead to a small town in front of me to stop a red Chevrolet Blazer, and that happened to be me. So I pulled up to a red light, and this cop car was coming out of the police station. He pulled up right next to me and says, "You need to pull over into the police station." And I said, "What I do? I'm just sitting in a light." He said, "I don't know." He said, "But I got to call them to stop a red Chevrolet Blazer, and you're it. So pull over there to the police station." So I'm sitting over there, and then about 15, 20, 30 minutes later, the guy that was driving the truck, he comes in, and so I asked him, I said, "Well, the truck's empty, right?" And he says, "No." He says, and there's 3 other guys laying on the back of it. So in the back of it, so they went and got a warrant for moonshine. And so they got a judge to sign the warrant for moonshine. Well, when they went on the truck, and found the pot, and these other 3 guys laying on the back of it, it didn't really matter. But they always had, the feds always had a problem with the search and seizure. Just because this cop thought it was a moonshine operation, because a car came out at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then this truck comes out. is not probable cause. So the federal government always knew they had a problem with that. And unfortunately, this is living in a city as opposed to living in a small town. It's two different things, and especially in the South. But anyway, so I had the attorneys that I had. One of them was an ex-prosecutor, and finally a Georgia State Patrol guy got in touch with this attorney and told this attorney that the sheriff of that county out there had taken the truck full of pot that they had arrested and took it back out to the airplane when they found it the next day. And so when the feds found out about them, actually they took the whole truck from where it was at the police station to the plane when they found it the next day. And actually the State Patrol had found it in the afternoon from a helicopter, and they said when they found it, they saw somebody running away from the plane, and the person had a sidearm on. Well, the only person that wears a sidearm's law enforcement, so but they couldn't see anything else. Just that they saw one person running away from the plane, and then one of the deputy sheriffs or the Georgia State Patrol that was actually with them when they took the pot back over there got in touch with that attorney and told him what had happened. And when that happened, the feds dropped the case immediately. And so because of the playing with evidence. Actually, the out of 14 people that were arrested totally, only one person cooperated. He was one that was on that truck, and he was one of the Michigan guys. And he's the only one that did any time. And that's because everybody else, they dropped all the charges on everybody else. So.
Wow, and so the rest is history then. That's that was...
Yeah, that and pretty much I started after that. I went to small airplanes. Me and Mike, we both had the contact in Columbia, so he started doing his thing, and God bless him. Mike ended up dying of cancer about 10 years ago, and he made a lot of money, and he ended up buying a beautiful resort and lived there his whole life in Costa Rica, and he raised his daughters there and everything else. So, but and then after that, like I said, I went to small airplanes after that, and instead of the big ones where you had to have so many people involved, and so I started like that. So I probably did about 25 of them.
25 runs?
Yeah, probably altogether, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
But and I'd usually pick up 1,000, 1,200 pounds or something like that. And just me and a couple of them, my old high school buddies, because we knew that we weren't going to cooperate against each other. So that, and that's how you go to jail, is when people start cooperating. So.
Right. And then how did you end up finally doing time?
Yeah, in 84, I did a year on federal level for a gig I did with an attorney out of Texas, and so I did a year then, and then the last gig I did, we ended up running out of gas in Belize, and but anyway, I ended up bringing back a King Air. It was the last airplane I had, and I ended up we did an airdrop on that one, and when I landed that night, early that morning at an airport, it just so happens that a girl I went to high school with was working at that airport. And a little bit later on, and she knew what I did for a living and things like that, but they ended up there ended up being a bad windstorm. They ended up going on this King Air, and they saw that the seats were kind of out of place and things like that, and so they ended up calling the law. And so a buddy of mine was going to go out and learn how to fly this plane, and they'd already confiscated by then, and that just started the so I ended up having to do 4 years on that one. And then the day before I was getting ready to self-surrender,
Marty, can you hear me right now? I lost your audio. Are you able to hear me right now? Oh, there you are.
yeah, I can now. While the phone call was coming in, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Okay.
So, but anyway, where was I?
Well, I was actually going to ask you because, we're getting short on time. I just wanted to have you comment on how you see things today. I mean, back then, did you ever think that you'd see a situation like we have today with all this legal weed in so many states and all the medical and everything? Is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we always have. But when I got arrested in '75, one of my attorneys was an old hippie attorney in Atlanta. I think Paul Cornwell may have mentioned his name, Al Horn. But
Yeah.
but anyway, Al was incredible man. He was he graduated first in his law class, and then he's from Alabama. But then he because of his political views, they ran him out of Alabama of fear of his life. And then he came to Atlanta, and he started representing all the blacks, and he represented Hosea Williams, one of Martin Luther King's right arm people and stuff like that, and all the hippies and everything. So, and when I knew who Al was because of just being a hippie, because he represented all the hippies, but I didn't know him personally. But but he and I became real good friends until the day he died. But anyway, he back then I just thought marijuana should be legal, and then but Al told me right from the get-go, he says, no, all of them got to be legal, and I thought he was out of his mind, to be honest with you, but it didn't take him very long to convince me that that all drugs should be legal. I mean, look at what's happened with cocaine. I mean, back in the 70s, if you saw 50 kilos of cocaine getting busted, that was a lot. Now it's 20,000 pounds getting busted. And, the people that have been killed over cocaine is just astronomical as opposed to what the drug is really like, because they wouldn't be busting 20,000 pounds off the people here didn't like to do it, and so, but all drugs have to be legalized, and especially with the fentanyl out there now, at least give them people a chance, because you got no chance. I mean, I had a good friend just died of fentanyl. Hell, he was my age, 75, but he liked to do those Xanax things, and he ended up getting one that was fentanyl instead of Xanax. So, but and so but all drugs, all recreational drugs should be legalized.
Yeah. Do you see that happening?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Every day you see more about it, especially with these boats getting blown out of the water down there. You're trying to swat a mosquito off a daggum mule's butt, trying to, blowing these boats out of the water. This only through education, are you going to people to stop. I always used to say the best way to get people to stop doing cocaine, give everybody a 10-pound bag. They'll quit doing it. They'll quit doing it real quick, So
absolutely.
But they, and in Colombia, when I first started going to Colombia down there, they didn't do cocaine down there. where it all comes from. They didn't start doing cocaine in Colombia until it got popular here. And now once people here started doing it, then they started doing it down there, which it goes over for the rest of the world too. So, I mean, cocaine now is going everywhere. They catch 20,000 pounds going to Australia.
Yep.
So it's
just a drop in the bucket too.
Yeah. So they'll and then I also spent a lot of time with Keith Straup. When Keith came to Atlanta to open up the normal chapter here, he opened up with Al Horn and Jim Jenkins, Jim Jenkins was another attorney in Al's office that was my age and stuff. So I got to spend a lot of time with Keith and all those normal people when they would come to town and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Well, I think, that I really appreciate you telling the story, and I feel like this is probably part one, and we probably are going to need to do a part two. Have you talk about some, more of your experiences and stuff. But this is really great, and I know our audience is really going to appreciate your story. Thank you for telling it. I definitely want to promote your book, Flying High, and let people know they can still get that, right?
I'm not even sure if they can or not. If anybody wants it, I can send them a transcript. But actually, the guy that wrote the book, I went to high school with him, and right before he got the book was finished, he kind of lost interest, and so I don't think he's selling it. He never did try to push the book at all, I mean, I've got a copy of the transcript. If anybody wants it, I can just send it.
Oh, so you never got it published?
And, it was published, and he sold it on Amazon for a while. But then I quit talking to him after he wanted me to sign over my intellectual property rights to him. All those things, and we already had a contract, between me and him and and this one buddy of mine. And the last time I tried to find it on Amazon, it wasn't on there anymore. So.
Okay. So it's called Flying High, a Cannabis Caper.
The Cannabis Caper. Now the Polk County Museum has copies of the book. I think they may still have some, and they've got T-shirts too. So
I've also got a link to this story on Skunk Works, Polk County Pot Plane to Minnesota cannabis seed home grows. So I'm gonna I'll post that with the interview, and let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah, sounds good. We can do that. So I got lots of smuggling stories. The only ones that are any good, the ones who get caught though.
That's right. Well, very good. Marty Raulins, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll look forward to doing a part two.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Appreciate it, Michael.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.